Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Ask Philip. This is for Friday, March 22nd, 2024. I don't know if this is an ominous sign, but we have 666 members in the group. So take that for what you will. Anyway, today we do have one really awesome question about expenditure and the use of macrofactor and what happens when you don't get enough sleep and all that combined. So that will be something you want to stick around for. Before we get into that, a couple announcements. First of all, today's podcast, episode 157, is the second interview with Dr. Bill Campbell. Bill is an awesome guy. He knows a ton about physique enhancement, teaches at the University of South Florida, researches down there, and a lot of his work is on rapid fat loss, doing it safely and effectively so that you don't lose muscle for people who are interested in going, losing the fat much more quickly, but keeping the duration very short. And he's trying to find that balance point between the two where you don't lose muscle. So we talked a lot about that. He also gave me his thoughts on the Shredtober challenge that we did last year, which was when we recruited some of our own community, and myself included, to do a rapid fat loss phase. That was a 14-day phase, but he talks about others like a 7-day protocol, and he talks about a research study that they're going to do. And during our conversation, from some of the questions I asked him, he said he might modify the study based on some of those questions, which is pretty cool. We also talked about dirty bulking. At which point is gaining weight too fast, where you are not really gaining any more muscle, you're just gaining fat. And I asked him some nuanced questions there related to how maximal strength also increases when you gain weight and how that relates to the muscle building side. And then we also talked about keto and the effects of keto on muscle building versus fat loss, and so on. So if you are interested in any of that stuff, Dr. Bill Campbell was an excellent guest, and that episode is out today. And if you missed it, or whether you missed it or not, the two quick wits this week were the me reading the contributions that I made to the Body by Science, and anyone who's on my email list, which you can join by going to witsandweights.com/bonus. So witsandweights.com/bonus. If you're not already on, most people who are listening or watching this are probably already on the list, but make sure you get on it, because next week I am emailing everyone on the list a free copy of the latest issue of Body by Science, the March issue. Dr. Campbell gave me permission to send the PDF out as an attachment to everybody on my list. So totally free, no strings attached. Of course, if you enjoy it and you like the way that it's set up for teaching you about these topics, I would encourage you to subscribe to his research review, but that's your choice. And today we are getting, one more thing. So you probably noticed the background I'm using today, Wits and Weights Physique University. That is just a little bit of a tease for what we are launching next month. I posted about it this morning, and I've dropped some posts here and there. I've dropped some stuff to the email list, and then people who have been reaching out to me directly through the, both my private clients, obviously, but also through my email list and other areas. Like if you were on one of my workshops, I'm building this pre-sale list. So what that is you will get a one or two emails ahead of time that say, like, get ready, it's about to be launched. Then it's going to be launched to that list only on a Friday, the Wits and Weights Physique University sales page, where the price will be an extremely low, like you'll never see this again, $97 a month. And for anybody watching and listening, like, that even the most basic group coaching programs are probably more than that. And Wits and Weights University is going to go far and above what most of these programs provide in terms of making it personalized and customized, which is closer to a one-on-one experience, is what I'm aiming for. But I also understand, because it's a brand new program, people aren't 100% certain how it's going to be and may want to just test the waters. And I understand that. And I also understand what I'm getting out of it from you joining early and being an early adopter is the chance to get feedback from you and kind of experiment together as it grows. But there's going to be a ton of amazing content right off the gate. So if you want to be on the pre-sale notification list, comment on this post, reach out to me by DM, reply to one of my emails, just make a personal contact, because I want to know that you are interested to get on that. And I will do that. Now, what that means is you'll get an email that says, hey, the sales page is live. The rate of $97 a month is available. The first 10 people who join are going to get that. I wanted to make it a reward for people who take action. Once those 10 slots are up, it goes up to $147 a month. I still expect lots of people to take advantage of that, because that's still an amazing value. It's still a great deal. because the final launch price a few months later, the public launch will probably be $247 a month. Which again, I still think is worth well more than what you get out of it, because it's kind of like a combination of an academic education in nutrition, but nutrition for everyday people who want to put it in practice, practical nutrition, if you'll call it. You're also going to get monthly workout programs. I decided to finally bite the bullet and like write programs for for novices and intermediate, for 3-day and 4-day. And I'm going to have a female specific program in there as well. Every month you'll get new ones. You can run them for as long as you want and progress through them, or you can switch up each month, whatever you want to do. You're going to get a done for you custom nutrition plan when you join, based on an intake assessment that, yes, it is personalized. So some people ask me like, is this really personalized? Yes, I take your data and I analyze it and I compare it to, based on the meal preferences you have, based on the goals you have, based on what time of day you train, what everything could look like for you, like in an ideal world, if you want to follow this, the rate of gain, rate of loss, when to eat, general macros, things like that. And then in conjunction with actually tracking using Macro Factor and some of the other free tools I'm going to drop you, like a physique and body composition tracker, pretty cool. You'll be able to get amazing results with the support of the community. So I don't want to continue this as like a sales pitch right now, but I did want to mention that if you are interested, if this is exciting, if you've been waiting for something like this and one-on-one coaching is not, you don't think it's a good fit, or maybe it's a little bit out of your budget, definitely take advantage of this, and just comment on the post or reach out to me. Okay, so today's question is from Veronica. Veronica, you've been super active in the group. I love it. I love that you are learning and growing and applying what you learn. And you're doing this all from our free community. And I want people to know that this Ask Philip thread, the idea of getting support this way is you can say, here's what's happening with me. What would you do? All right. And I will answer one question a week from people, not one total question, but each person can post a question each week and I will answer it. So Veronica's question today is, my question is regarding Macro Factor. And by the way, it's not just about Macro Factor. This is more generally, and I'm going to answer the question more generally about expenditure and a few other things. So let's continue hearing the question and then I'll answer it. For some reason, my expenditure, all right, and by expenditure, we mean total daily energy expenditure, how many calories you burn the entire day. That's your basal metabolic rate, your resting rate, your the thermic effect of food, like how much it takes to digest your food, your exercise and your movement and your NEAT, your walking, your fidgeting, everything that it takes to burn calories. For some reason, my expenditure has been dropping for the past days. I've had irregular work days, extremely long, in which my water intake has not been as optimal as usual. And I've been sleeping less than the usual 6+ hours. Okay, so I can already answer your question, Veronica, before I even get to it. Already, I can say, no matter whether you're gaining or losing weight or at maintenance, if your normal schedule gets disrupted, that is a stressor on the body, especially when you say they're irregular as an extremely long. That is added chronic stress to your body. Your body will start to conserve calories. Second, your water intake has not been optimal. That could also affect you through dehydration, and that more causes weight fluctuations. I'm not going to say that affects your expenditure much. And then third, you said you've been sleeping less than the usual 6+ hours. So a lack of sleep or less sleep than normal, a disruption to your schedule, will reduce your expenditure. So right there, I hope I already answered your question and we're done. But you extended your question. I want to get into the details so people understand. And then you were kind enough to provide graphs from Macro Factor that we can take a look at. So you continue. At the same time, my weight trend has been mostly increasing, right? So you've been gaining weight. The program increased my calories and macros considerably, and I'm hesitant to follow through. For example, my goal weight is 130 and it has my protein leveled at 155. So if your goal weight is 130, your goal weight's 130. So you're trying to lose weight and you're currently sitting above 136. Okay. So you're trying to get to 130 and it has my protein leveled at 155 grams. That's interesting. So you must have it set to extra high, which is fine. So usually I don't see it way above your body weight unless you have it set to extra high. So you might want to go in and redo the plan so it's just high if that feels like too high for you, because you don't need that much protein. I would say for you, if your goal weight's 130, like no more than 130 is probably needed generally. However, during fat loss, going over 130 can be helpful. So if you want to leave it alone, that's fine. If you feel like it's too much, you can set it down one notch in the plan. I'm afraid to do so. I think you're afraid to eat more protein because of the slight weight increase, 134 pounds about 3 weeks ago to 137 for the past 2 weeks. Now remember, if you're afraid to increase protein, but it's not the protein that would cause weight gain, right? It's the calorie surplus that would cause weight gain from whatever source. And the irony, Veronica, and everyone else listening, is sometimes when you add more protein, it actually reduces your overall calories because you start to get fuller and other things come down. Your fats and carbs come down, and they come down by more calorie wise than the protein. That happens a lot. Not always, right? Because if you're just purely trying to add protein and keeping everything else the same and kind of forcing yourself, so to speak, then you could definitely eat more. But if you just go with your hunger signals, satiety, and all that, it sometimes causes you to eat less. Anyway, I haven't measured myself in circumference, though. I'm yet to acquire the measuring tape. The question really is, should I blindly trust a recommendation in the app or rather start measuring? I think those are mutually exclusive questions. No, you should never blindly trust anything. You should always have a skeptical and critical eye on it. Now, this is where a coach can be helpful. This is where, like I mentioned, was Wits and Weights Physique University earlier, we can go over these kinds of patterns in the group coaching calls. And I might actually put some modules together when I do the macro factor course that goes into different scenarios we see with weight trend and with expenditure and what it means. Because sometimes people do overreact, and I'm not saying you're doing that, but as we get into the data here, I'll tell you what I'm seeing if I'm the coach and I'm evaluating for your check-in, for example. So no, you shouldn't blindly trust a recommendation. You should definitely use critical thinking. And then should you start measuring? I think it's a great idea for anybody to measure their circumference measurements. You can throw them in macro factor. I have a body composition and physique tracker that I'm going to give people in Wits and Weights Physique University that I've built up over the years, where you can put in your measurements and it'll calculate your body fat trend. It'll calculate your muscle to fat ratio. And then I even have a biofeedback tracker in there. So I definitely recommend it because you can see, okay, is my waist size going down, even though my weight's going up, things like that. Also, is the lack of sleep a factor that may be impacting my expenditure? Yes, already answered that. It definitely is, most likely is, or rather my reluctance to increase my calories and macros. So let's talk about that piece of it, all right? Looking at your data, we see that your weight trend has come down, 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 down. You started at 141, and over 2 months or so, you've come down and lost, come down to about 136. So that's what, 5 pounds of weight loss with lots of scale weight fluctuations as we would expect. And very, very recently started to tick up. Now, right off the bat, I would say, are you overreacting? Maybe, because that's really in the noise. Going from a 136.2 to 136.5 or something. It's like a fraction of a pound. I'm not going to worry so much about that. Notice how much your weight fluctuates. It can come way down, come way up, down, up. Sometimes there's a little bit of pressure on that weight trend graph because recent data points have been above or below the norm. And that could be just because of fluid. Now, you mentioned dehydration and stress from long work hours, and you mentioned lack of sleep. All of that together we're not even talking about expenditure, could cause you to gain short-term weight. Like dehydration often causes a bump in weight because your body will start to retain fluid in response to the dehydration, for example, right? The added stress will cause your body to conserve energy. Now your expenditure goes up or goes down, and now you're actually eating in a larger or smaller deficit than you thought, or a larger surplus than you thought, right? And on and on. So these massive fluctuations, plus it looks like, I don't know if you didn't get some data points in there, and that's what's causing this large drop. And that could have overstated the trend here, but I don't think so. I think this is just short-term noise over here, the recent increase. But let's continue looking at your data. So you gave us your expenditure data, and what we see is over the last month or so, the expenditure shot way up by about 250, 300 calories. And then recently it took a little dip down. Now, notice in macro factor, they have this light orange shaded stuff around the actual line, and that's called the flux range. Yours is massive. So what it's saying is there's so much variability in what the algorithm could tell you your expenditure is that the error of the actual value is large. So meaning it came down, but that doesn't mean it's really coming down by that exact amount. It could be coming down by, it could have gone up slightly, it could have gone down slightly. There's kind of an error range if you want to think of it that way. And so when I see short-term fluctuations, I don't give them much thought. I really don't. Like for me, this is very normal. And you've just started using the app. If you saw my graph or somebody who's been using it for like 2 years, you're going to see this huge roller coaster up and down and up and down. It's so massive. And I think this is where you start to learn about your body when these things happen. However, it's a small drop, right? Like it's 20, 30 calories, which isn't that much. But the things you're telling me about your work schedule, your stress, and your sleep do suggest they probably are pushing downward on your expenditure a little bit in the short term. And you are in a fat loss phase. If you've been losing weight, technically your metabolic adaptation should be causing your metabolism to go down, and all the other stuff around it is causing it to go up or down. Meaning, if you're in a fat loss phase and your expenditure has been going up, two reasons for this. One, Macrofactor didn't have enough data to tell you the truth until like 3 weeks in. But once you got there, it kept going up. And if you were actually losing weight, that tells me that maybe, you started training more effectively, you started moving more, started sleeping better. Like there's a whole bunch of changes that counteract the metabolic adaptation drop with a lots of increase that gave you a net increase. I hope this all makes sense so far. In other words, I'm saying let's not worry about most of this right now because it's so short term and such a small change, and it's very normal. Plus, your nutrition. We're going to look at your nutrition graph. I love your nutrition graph. This tells me you're very consistent. I see two types of nutrition graphs, or three types of nutrition graphs. One type has a bunch of gaps. Like you're either not logging, you're not logging consistently. The second type is you log consistently, but you're not consistent with your eating. So I see massive ups and downs in the amount of calories per day. The third is yours, which is very consistent. And by very, anybody who's listening to this, if I happen to have it on the podcast, what it looks like is she doesn't have a lot of variability day to day. She has some, which is great because we are not robots. We're never going to be perfect and hit the macros right on or the calories right on. In fact, that's why I dislike apps like MyFitnessPal and Chronometer and others that kind of penalize you just for being off by 1 calorie. Life doesn't work that way. So for you, this is extremely consistent, and I want you to keep doing that because it's going to pay off. The protein is nice and high where it needs to be. And yeah, so I think I answered a lot of your points. Your main thing was about the fear of eating more because it increased your calories. Now, Macrofactor has a little bit of a lag because it doesn't want to over respond. And if you're saying it increased your calories even after showing a drop here, it's probably detecting a leveling off. And your flux was so high, and also the drop has been such in the short term that it's still responding to the continual increase you had before. So it's kind of a lagging effect. All right. The expenditure is also based on how quickly you're gaining or losing. So it doesn't make 100% sense that it would increase your calories when I see your weight going up if your goal is to go down. But again, there could be a lagging effect. So to answer your question about should I go up, here's what you can do. Just reject the check-in for this week in Macrofactor and keep all the targets where they are. For your mental state, I think that's the way to go. I think it's not going to matter that much in the long term, but it'll make you feel better in the short term. And that's part of the equation. Next week, see what it does. If it continues to push it up and the expenditure is going down, reach out because that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And there's something else going on, but I suspect that it would level off or even go back down if your expenditure is going down. And at the end of the day, we expect your expenditure to start going down if you're losing weight. All right, that's it. I think that ended up being a pretty comprehensive answer to address everything. But if I missed anything, let me know, Veronica. And I wish everyone a pleasant Friday and weekend, and we'll talk soon. We'll see you next week.